Everyone, welcome to today's session of Coffee with Cash. We're excited to have you. I know we dropped some reminders in the chat. We're just going to give people a few minutes to trickle in just as everyone gets settled. So the whole purpose of this is for you to have a more one-on-one opportunity with Cash to go over some of the more specific things in your DNA 360 reports. So if you do want to ask a question, you're welcome to do so virtually. And if you want to be on camera, that's great. We just ask that you use the raise your hand function so we don't miss you. Or if you don't want to be on video or on voice or anything like that, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll catch that as well. Our team, our client care team, and some sales personnel who have a lot more knowledge on our programs and things like that are available in the chat as well. So if you have any questions for that portion of our team, they are happy to help. We'll also be sending out a recording of today's session. So if you feel like anything has been missed or you want to review anything, that will be accessible to you as well. And that's just going to live on YouTube in an unlisted link, so you can watch it as many times as you like. So like I said, we're just going to give people a few more minutes to join, and we hope you enjoy today's session.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. See some familiar names here. And again, to maximize your time, we can jump right into things. It's been a day of podcasts and innovation. We're working on new reports and new testing. So it's been an interesting day. So I have some interesting thoughts spinning in my head that I might be able to share with you also as we talk. as B said, you're welcome to raise your hand, but I'll just start in the order that I see you until then. Natalie, I see you up there. How you doing? So if there's any particular, again, the purpose of this time is for you and your specific questions, right? So it's this chance to have a much smaller group instead of the several hundreds that we have on the report review calls. This allows us to be small intermediate groups. We give you more time. So really the best value is for you to come up with whatever your questions are, and we'll answer here directly. So Natalie, is there anything specific you wanted to cover?
No, actually, I just saw that you were doing this and I thought it was cool. So I wanted to
Okay,
jump
cool.
on. I've been really busy, so I haven't even had a chance to like go back over my DNA again, but I figured everybody else would have amazing questions and you would have amazing answers and I would learn from it. So
All right, that works. Okay, Denise, part of Denise's name says Clearwater, Florida. She's very proud of her location. It's like embedded into her title.
Yeah, actually, that was for something else I needed to say where I was, but I'm kind of in the same boat as Natalie. I haven't had a chance to go through my report with a fine-tooth comb, but one thing is coming up that I know I've had a lot of issues with in the past, and that's my zinc levels. And the one gene that they kind of point out in here, they said the only recommendation was to make sure I'm taking zinc every day. But besides that, because I guess it affects your beta cells and your ability to get the zinc into the cells so that you can get insulin, so your blood sugar levels may be a little bit higher. Is there any other recommendation or any other way, supplements or anything that besides just taking zinc?
Yeah, do you, what version of the gene do you have? Do you have it in front of you?
I have something in front of me. Yeah, if you give me 1 second, I
Sure.
will look up.
Because there's we'll get into a more thorough answer, but the very basic starting point is dosage. And when you look at the genetics of zinc, it's literally one gene that metabolizes it. And
Okay.
based on that, what we're recommending is the dosage, right? Meaning we're getting very specific in terms of how much you need. Usually when you buy zinc, it usually recommends about 5 milligram. And then depending if you're mid suboptimal or highly suboptimal, we'll recommend 10 or 14.
Yeah, I got 14 was the
14, so you're way off, which is why your zinc is low, right? So you have the worst version of the gene. So 14 is, so the highest we'll see recommended is like 20 if it's combined with other supplements. So there's one question of dose, which we figured that out. You need more than what it says on the bottle. In fact, 3 times as much. The second question is, how are you actually getting it to the cell and benefiting from what you just absorbed? So there's one thing in terms of preparation of the cell, and what ends up happening over time, if your zinc has been low for a long time, you can form a capsule or a fibrotic state around the cell, which prevents nutrients from entering. And this is very common, by the way. Most of us, given the low nutrition value of our food, are suffering from this. And so the supplements you take often don't enter. And there's a product called Pectisol. We don't sell it. Some of you may know it. It actually breaks down that fibrosis and allows the cell to be accessible to nutrients that are being delivered, and they get right in, right? The other thing to consider is as opposed to so if you're really struggling, suppose you start taking the 14 milligrams and your tests are still showing it's not working. There's a molecule, so in the mineral world, there's a molecule called a fulvic mineral, right? So there's fulvic and there's humic, and fulvic is this really tiny molecule that's even smaller than your cells, and it allows the transport of zinc right into the cell, irrespective of what condition your cell is in. And it actually, funny thing is, when it leaves the cell, it pulls out and draws out toxins that are in the cell. It kind of reverses its polarity. It has this charge that brings nutrients in and another charge that takes toxins out. So for people that struggle with minerals, often we say, don't just take the zinc, take a fulvic formula. There's a product called Beam Minerals that does a really good job of that. Again, we don't sell it, just happen to know it's a great product. And if you do that in combination with the zinc supplement, it's going to get delivered a lot more efficiently. Right, so this is one of the challenges. Keep in mind that we used to get these nutrients from our food, and the food was designed to do all of these things, right? It had the fulvic and humic minerals. Our food now doesn't. So our body doesn't know that it has to adapt and change. It still thinks these tools are coming for our food, which is not. So that's what I would say. The dosage is important, the triple, and if you want to just take the zinc, chip away at the cell wall or fibrosis by taking Pectosol it probably take 3 months. Or get a fulvic mineral compound and take that with it, and you'll get better delivery. Right, you'll get right into the cell. You'll notably feel it. Like you'll feel like your skin changes, eyes will change. There'll be a little bit of life, that is added. And it works pretty quick.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I think this says Bela, but I'm not sure. Is it Bela?
Bela.
Bela? Okay.
Bela. Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm first of all overwhelmed that I'm actually
Yeah.
speaking to you.
Oh.
I've been following you for a while and I'm blown away by the breadth of your knowledge. So one day you'll tell us where to go study. I'm fascinated by this. It's just incredible. So I also just jumped in and ordered my test and was like so curious to find out my gene profile. I'm 2 years into a gut reset. I've got autoimmune. I'm just trying to tackle a whole bunch of things at the same time. So when I got my report, it's a ton of information to process, and I definitely have not got, a clear understanding of exactly what is going on. Some of the things that jumped out at me are, say, suboptimal vitamin D profile. I have suboptimal, I guess it's conversion or binding. I'm not sure which one it is. But in general, looking at all this information, my first question was, okay, now what? Some of these things jumped out at me because they point to autoimmune. If we're trying to optimize my immune system or modulate my immune system, that would be, I guess, a factor. Vitamin D is a factor, C is a factor. There's so many things going on here. Sleep is poor. Where do you start? What do you do with this information?
Great question. So, and that's foundational to what is the purpose of all this information?
Exactly.
That the actual intention of this information is to tell you where to start, meaning you're here, you also listen to a podcast, watch TV, whatever, everyone's telling you to do something. What do you actually do and where do you start? So the intention with the genetic test is not really like other blood work where you're looking for levels and trying to adjust them. It's more to prioritize. What is the big red flag? Or what's the thing that my body just doesn't do efficiently? Because that thing is probably leading to many other symptomatic type problems that now get labeled as autoimmunity or eczema or migraines or whatever, right? So if you focus on that central hub, which is the red flags in your report, this gene is missing, this gene is suboptimal, this gene is overactive. For example, in hormones, you may make too much estrogen, so it's good or bad. So when it's not that homeostatic middle where it's supposed to be, you prioritize and focus. So what does that mean? You start supplementing, eating, exercising, example, for that gene suboptimability. And as an example, you might find that you have a fast CYP19A1 as a gene which converts your testosterone into estrogen, right? So maybe you make too much estrogen. And that could point to, mood issues, fibromyalgia, breast cancer, if you also make a toxic estrogen. So that might be the priority because that one thing solves many problems, right? Including autoimmunity, by the way, which could be misdiagnosed. It could be more of a fibromyalgia state, like what's this weird pain and brain fog, and so if you focus on that one thing, which means what are the supplements that slow that gene expression down? And the report will tell you, here's for your estrogen dominance, here's what's recommended that will actually slow the CYP. It may not spell it out in those words, slow down CYP19A1, but really it's being recommended for that problem. So if you focus on that hub, the biological failure, not the symptoms themselves, but here's the job and multiple jobs that my body just doesn't do well or does a little too well, and I want to bring it back to the middle, then these feelings I have will go away, right? The feelings are your body screaming to you, something's off balance, right? It's either food, environment, relationship, lack of sleep, something is not what your body And the laugh gave something away there, by the way.
I'm laughing because I read your report in the car and I read just like the summary and I said, you seem to be, you know, people have a hard time around you. They seem to be walking on eggshells. My husband lost it. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He's like, how did they know that's you?
Yeah,
So
so
yes,
that's
that's why I'm
serotonin
laughing.
response, right? And it's so there's a couple different reasons why that would happen. Serotonin dysregulation is one of them. And that thing, so here's another example. If that's you found a red flag, right? Now, what do you do? Where do you start even for that red flag? Well, the way you deal with that isn't the way you deal with hormones. We're not saying that your brain is broken. We're saying that you have a superpower, which is you just see the world in a greater level of detail. And that also means when you're speaking to your goofy husband, he's providing a little too much detail and it's irritating, right? Because that's the way you see the world. But in your work, it's a superpower, like crossing every T, dotting every I, noticing every sound, every movement. It's a strength that other people don't have. So that's a contextual thing. Who am I? What am I designed for? What should I be doing? So just understand, again, I would go through it, look at for anything that's pointing out as a job that your body doesn't do well, and then don't stop there. Then interpret that in the context of what you're dealing with. I feel irritated, I feel pain, I can't sleep at night, because all of these systems are interconnected. Serotonin is a mood regulator, also wakes you up in your sleep. If you're distracted by different stimulus, well, you're also going to wake up in your sleep, right? So that's how you start using the report is red flag first, prioritize that, solve that problem with the right supplements, whatever, and all these symptoms kind of go away.
So in other words, anything that has a mark of suboptimal or the red triangle, go to those
Yeah, red,
first?
start with all the reds and then go to the yellows, right? And
Or
then
all
just
reds,
slowly
okay.
chip away at it, right?
Okay.
What you're
Do
looking
you
for.
have coaches? Do you
We
have
do,
coaches?
yeah,
for
so we
companies?
have, so there's, we do coaching in the context of a program. And the reason why we do that is because we've done this so many times that we kind of know what's needed. And some people say like, hey, can I just get on a phone call? And we know what's going to happen and overwhelm, fall apart. Oh, this didn't work. You know, especially someone serotonin dysregulated that may overthink it, right? So that's where we know that that beginning to end program where it's not just here's the information, but here's the accountability. Here's me helping you change your habits, you know, and that takes weeks, not hours or minutes.
Yeah.
So yes, we have programs. Somebody in here can drop from our team who you can talk to about that.
Okay. Just for
And
some guidance, that would be great.
yeah, you'll there's heavy duty programs that are 3, 4, 5 months long. And Jason, who's in the chat here, he can even tell you about some of our smaller programs if it's solving a problem or whatever. But the accountability and the guidance from coaching is very different than doing it yourself, for sure. Right.
So you would recommend in general, like say before somebody runs to do a gut reset or a liver reset or whatever, this would be the first foundational thing to address. And then some of those other things might just fall away.
Yeah, step one, why are you even doing that? Are you solving the right problem? Because those recommendations are usually symptom back. I feel like this, let me Google, here's the solution, but why is it happening?
Right.
Like get to the root. So
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
No problem. Denise, just so you know, I just noticed that Michael dropped in a discount code. So if you want to order Beam, you use the code and you'll save some money. Janet, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you for the report. I have and I have spent hours going through it and coordinating the responses. And so I'm missing the gene for glutathione. So I've been supplementing the N-acetylcysteine and the L-lipoic and da. And I actually feel really good. So it's been quite a few weeks since I've started this. And then this, you know, some other things that you suggested, like the methylated with the B12 and the folate. And so my main question is, I mean, I went with like the gene that was missing, the red flags, and some of the things I've addressed with tea, like dandelion tea and passion fruit and whey protein and that kind of thing, rather than supplements. So I'm wanting to know two things. Is there a max of supplements that then you're starting to depend too much on digestion to actually take in? Because I'm on like 10 things.
Yeah.
How do you know when something's stabilized enough to go on to the next thing, which is what Bella was kind of at. I think one of her questions, like, what,
Yeah.
how do you know when something's stabilized other than symptoms? I assume if a gene's missing, I'm always going to be on N-acetylcysteine or glutarol, the glutarol products. But
Yeah, so that's a great question because a lot of people screw up there and you think that take it and you get it, which is not true. A lot of when you introduce, so first of all, your body was designed to receive these things through food. So the dosage and the process through which you were meant to get it is very different than taking a highly concentrated supplement, right? So our bodies are not designed for that. It works, but it takes time for your gut, your everything to adjust for you to metabolize. So often people will start on, oh, here's my 10 supplement roster, right? Here's my protocol. And all they have is expensive pee because it's all coming out, right? And then this happens to a lot of people. We've even had people's message saying, hey, I have yellow pee, I'm detoxing. No, you're just peeing out expensive supplements, right? So really what needs to happen is that build up, like you're suggesting, right? And there's a baseline of what does my body actually need before supplementing is that it's adding extra, right? But what do I actually need? Your body needs protein for muscle and maintenance of that. Your body needs fat. You don't necessarily need carbs or starches. You can take them, but you can't live without protein and fat, but you can live without starch and carbs, right? So you need protein, you need fat, you need micronutrients like vitamin D, C, all the B's, A's, zinc, etc. And you need minerals. There's about 60 or so, there's 5 or 6 big minerals that we focus on, like magnesium, calcium, etc. But there's like 60 of them that we need. That's what you need. Now, everything else that is not in those buckets, you might find a mitochondrial supplement. You might find an extract of some plant, like a tocopherol comes from a palm fruit, right? These are things that you don't need, but are more optimization tools, right? And you're making up for the poor food, the bad environment, etc. So that stuff you add slowly. If you take minerals, if you take your micronutrients, they get to work because your body's designed for those things. Your body already knows what to do with that stuff. When it comes to all the extras, you have to acclimate a little bit, which means don't take it all at once. What you've been doing is the right way. Add 1, add 2, add 3. If the bottle says take 2 capsules, start with 1, right? Their information is based on clinical research of somebody who's been taking it for 3, 4, 5 months. They didn't measure what happened in the first week or 2, right? So start with a little bit less and build it up, and eventually you may be able to take more than what the bottle says, right? So that's kind of the general answer. Is your foundational minerals and micronutrients, your body knows what to do with them. The extra stuff, which is a lot of what we talk about here, the body doesn't know what to do with it because it's used to getting it from other sources, and it just pees it out, and that's bad for your liver, your kidney, right? It's a load, it's an extra burden that your body can't handle. So you slowly build it up, and you so just like think of it as going to the gym and trying to bench press 400 pounds on day 1. Something's going to go wrong, right? So it's the same thing with supplements. Build it up, and you can eventually do all that stuff. So internally in our team, we were just joking around about Dave Asprey posted this thing last week about the, I think, 84 supplements that he takes for breakfast every day, right? Yeah, that's literally his breakfast. And he showed a big picture, whatever. Now, keep in mind, this is what he's been doing every day, all day for years, right? So he probably, if you were to measure, is receiving the benefit of a lot of that. The challenge is when somebody goes and sees that post and tries to do the same thing on day 1, you'll actually get sick. Like it's going to hurt you, right? So yeah, so acclimate, build it up slowly. And the other thing you can do is what we mentioned earlier, pectosol to, or other things that allow the cell to be more vibrant and healthy so that it can actually get the benefit, which is, the terrain has to be ready for what you're putting in, right?
yeah, so then how do you know, like the DNA really doesn't repair? Like once you've identified a red flag, you just learn to support those things.
That's permanent. Yeah. You learn to support. So especially learn to support in today's context, because keep in mind, your bad glutathione genes maybe didn't matter 200 years ago. right? Today, depending on where you live, with the water and the food and the air and the glyphosates and the chemicals and the pesticides and the dry cleaning and the everything, it really matters.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to, if you have a broken pathway or system, you have to be supplementing it because the reality, the context is different. You're in a different bubble now with a lot more threats. Right. Yeah. One day there'll be gene editing. There actually is today gene editing. They're just targeting different things than what we could potentially be targeting, which will fix that gene for you, and then it's permanent. But even then, the load today is so much that even the best version of the gene is likely not enough, right?
So if you look at specific conditions like osteoporosis or autoimmune, like what Bella was talking about, you still are going to be doing the same testing and supplementing what's not working right.
Yeah, so as an example, let's call out autoimmunity. We're not looking for an autoimmunity gene. We're saying, why does the body trigger an autoimmune response? What's the actual biology that leads to that state? It's not a disease. It's a state that your body's stuck in because of whatever you did before that, the choices you made. So one example is if you have the really good gut detox genes, the GSTM1, right, that gene, if you have both copies, then keep in mind, again, contextually, this was good in your ancestors' context where food wasn't poison. Now, if you have the really good GSTM1, both copies from mom and dad, it looks upfront as like, oh, I have good gut detox. But you have good gut detox, adding in super toxic food, if you're not careful, triggering a constant, rapid, and sort of exaggerated detox response because you're so good at it, which leads to autoimmunity. And this is a major source of today's autoimmunity. People are eating the wrong foods with good detox, which seemingly would be a good thing, but in the context of bad food, it's too much. And so that's the problem to solve. It's not the autoimmunity itself, right? The outcome is autoimmunity, and now you're masking the autoimmunity. Thyroid, Hashimoto's, that's another major one. And it's like, okay, I'm going to keep managing the Hashimoto's and keep suppressing the symptoms, or I could just realize that the thyroid itself needs support. Now, the thyroid takes time to heal. It takes longer than other parts of your body, but you can heal it, right? And when you do heal it, the autoimmunity, which is the outcome of poor thyroid health, goes away. And you can look at your hormone profile and see, do I make too much estrogen? Am I not make enough estrogen, or is it toxic? And then you start to clue in, and, oh, well, this might be the root of why I feel like this. And you fix that thing, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, well, no problem.
I've appreciated the work. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. I see Mary here. Oh, she just disappeared. Are you still there? Mary Taylor? Oh, there you are.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to unmute. I did this maybe a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was going back over trying to update myself. The biggest issue, I think, is aging. I don't have an allele for detox from either my mother or father, so I'm completely missing that. I do have the longevity gene, so I got to take better care of myself. I may be around a while.
The FOXO3?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the questions I had is I also have MTHFR, and then I have the situation where you have that epistatic phenomenon, and I'm not sure I understand that completely. I have what looks like a good BDNF, the GG, but I also have the TPH2 GG form, which says I may then have a negative situation with both those genes. Could you explain that further?
Sure. We'll start with that, and then we'll talk about the longevity stuff.
Okay.
So BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, primary function is neuroplasticity, making neural pathways, right? If you have the good version of BDNF, you do a really good job on the hardware side of literally building new neural pathways. What does that mean? It's easy to learn new skills, right? Because you can, the athlete that plays baseball, also basketball, also football, versus this is what I do, which is bad BDNF, right? I might do this really, really, really well, like a scientist, but I can't do anything else, right? So that's BDNF. Neuroplasticity. It also speaks to longitudinal brain health, because the more your brain can repair and recover, the less likely it is to have cognitive decline and dementia, etc.
Right.
So now TPH isn't turning off any of that. What it's turning off, sorry, I should say, is the mood related outcome of BDNF. Poor BDNF causes you to give things a lot more meaning. So where, Bela has a serotonin issue, which means that she's seeing a lot of detail. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a weight on her shoulders. She's maybe not crying, slamming the door, noticing it. Yes, the level of reaction is BDNF. So BDNF is where we get that shell shock. So now, bad news, lawyer letter in the mail. There's one thing to look at it and say, yeah, I'm busy right now, I'll deal with this later. It's another thing to say, close the door, everyone out of my room, I got to deal with this, right? That's poor BDNF, like meaning, a lot of weight. And it also leads to shell shock in the terms, in the outcome of like, I can't move on until I've resolved this. Like, do this now, I'm calling you right now, right? We need to get this done now. I can't sleep because I'm lying on my pillow thinking, why did I show up 5 minutes late? I shouldn't have said this. Why did I do this?
I'm
Right?
an excellent ruminator.
You're wired for it, right? So you're giving it meaning, your brain keeps spinning, and what your brain is seeking is resolution. Right? So you are wired to fix things. Right? You're wired to like find the problem, give it a lot of meaning and fix it, where the other guy's just sitting there on his phone, not giving it in, right? You're wired to take action and fix it. So again, anything in mood and behavior is an innate superpower if you use it in the right context, or it's a massive crutch if you're in the wrong context. Try and put this in the context of a team, right? Where like you have to deal with whining people all day long that are causing drama, while they're going to get a drama queen response from you because it means a lot, right? I'm not talking to you again. I'm not doing this again, like that type of level. Versus I think deep, I ruminate, I solve the problem for real, and my solution is like a quality permanent solution, right? That you think to that level. So this is what the TPH is doing. It's not turning off the hardware, which is what's happening if you have bad BDNF. You actually are challenged with neuroplasticity and developing new neural pathways. So that hasn't been affected. What's affected is the outcome in terms of mood, right? So again, it's not a good or a bad, it's how are you using it, right? If you know this is who you are, the thing about sleep, by the way, when you're ruminating, your brain doesn't know the difference between the problem actually being solved and you just parking it. So something as simple as having a notebook, right? And like, I can't sleep because I shouldn't have said this, and why did I do this, and I need to call this person. Even if you're just open the notebook and write down 10 a.m. tomorrow, I am calling this person to fix this, your brain thinks it's resolved. And then all of a sudden you can sleep. Just need to park it somewhere, right? The other thing to consider is sauna. So yeah, so I don't know if you already do.
I bought a relax sauna, the one with your head out.
Okay.
But it's, infrared, and I have really enjoyed it. I use it 5 or 7 times a week, I bet,
Okay.
for 20 minutes. What do you think of?
So 2 things there. It's a great product, right? Meaning in terms of the red light therapy and the mitochondrial function, but your head is not getting the heat. And so you are getting some of the benefit, but not all.
Okay.
So your head, and a lot of people, you'll see people actually wearing a sauna cap to prevent their head from getting hot sometimes in a sauna. So that's actually counterproductive. You need that when you're in a sauna for 20 minutes and it starts to feel uncomfortable and it starts to feel like I could pass out potentially, that's the next 10 minutes are where you're getting the most benefit.
Is that true even if you've had a concussion or other traumatic brain?
So BDNF speaks to brain repair, right? And so bad BDNF means you do a not so good job of repair, which is why concussion might be a challenge. Although the hardware issue is less prominent with the epistasis, but it's still there a little bit.
Okay.
So yes, sauna stimulates neurogenesis, new brain cells. Right? We used to believe that there's no such thing as new brain cells. It's absolutely false. There is. The other thing you should highly consider, have you had a brain injury?
I had a minor concussion many years ago, but that was that plus the cost was one of the reasons I chose the relaxed sauna, because they had indicated if you've had a lot of traumatic brain injury, you shouldn't have your head fully in a sauna, because I did a membership to one of the big fancy 4-person sauna places for a while
Yeah.
before I made my choice.
Yeah, I think so. I've kind of seen the opposite where
Okay.
you want your head hot and stimulated, and that's when BDNF starts firing and starts creating new brain cells and new neural pathways. There's also the consideration of so if you really want to fix it at a clinical level, like it's an injury, your brain has a really high density of mitochondria.
Mhm.
Right? It's, I think, second highest in your body after your heart. So if you also target not only neurogenesis, but what we call mitophagy, like new mitochondria, then it forces your brain to develop. Right? It forces the existing mitochondria to become bigger and stronger, which counteracts the injury itself.
Okay.
So that's another benefit of sauna, but there's also supplements you can take. We make something called, sorry?
Well, I take MitoPure. Have you heard of
Great.
that?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Very
will do the job.
expensive, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it will do the job. And the other thing that helps is breathing exercises. So one of the, physically pushing heavy things like resistance training, weight training, really sort of triggers mitochondrial development. And the other thing is breath holding. So go on YouTube and find a breath holding exercise. There's a gentleman named Ari Whitten that has.
Yeah, Ari,
Go ahead.
yeah, I bought his breathing program.
His breathing, okay. So his breathing programs really drive mitochondrial development in the brain. I'm not sure if he tells people that or what the intention is, but they're designed for that. Breath holding, really stress, what we call hormetic stressors, like healthy stresses of the body.
Okay.
Holding breath is like a healthy stress in your body, which signals, I need strength, I need resilience. Let me get more mitochondria.
Okay.
Right.
And I do take Athletic Greens, AG1, and Pectisol. I've been doing that for several months now with the relaxed sauna. But I saw your Brain Tap seminar a while back. I bought the Brain Tap. I have done nothing that helps me calm down more than that.
Yeah,
and that
awesome.
helps me with my sleep. So I just hats off to you guys for that. I really think that's a phenomenal tool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's and it has these different settings where you can actually fix the exact problem you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an awesome tool. Patrick Porter is a genius. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. This was great.
no problem. What do we have here? I see Michael.
Did you want to add anything about the longevity gene?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
Why off?
Sorry.
No, nothing. My thing is getting muted all the time. I don't understand. No wonder you cannot hear me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Who's speaking right now?
Oh, it's me, Graziella, but finish up with the lady
Okay,
there.
sure. Okay. Sorry, Graziella. Okay, so let's finish
No
that up.
problem.
So when it comes to longevity, what you said is absolutely true, and most people don't realize, which is we are living longer, but we have not learned how to be healthy for longer. So our ancestors died in their 30s. That was it, right? So our bodies are still designed for that length of life, meaning that when you hit your 30s, your body starts, you start losing your mitochondria. Your body's literally preparing to age. You're maturing until your 30s, and you actually start aging, meaning the skin changes, the hair changes, energy changes, because your mitochondria falls off a cliff. By the time you're 70 years old, you've lost 70% of your mitochondria. And this process starts in the 30s, right? So it's like 10% per year. And there's a kind of rapid 20-30% catalyst in your 30s, and then it's another 10% per year, right? Or decade, sorry. And so this is what ages us, because our body wasn't prepped for the long life we now have, because there's a lot less threats, for whatever, all these reasons we already know. And this is why there's so much chronic disease, not only because there's threats of bad food and chemicals and stress, but we are around for much longer for those diseases to develop, especially cognitive decline. This is why there's an epidemic of Alzheimer's and dementia, because people are living into their 80s and 90s, which we never did before. The average American, I think it's now 78. For the first time ever, we saw that number dropped. It dropped by 3 years. Life expectancy dropped by 3 years this year. The reasons for that are a whole other hour we need to spend. But that happened, right? So anyways, this is very true that you need to prep yourself for the long life you're going to have that we're not designed to have. So that means maintenance, right? And it means using your red flags to identify exactly which biological system is going to drive poor outcomes. Is it your hormone toxicity? Is it your insulin response? Is it your bad gut detox? Is it your glutathione response? Because know that the level of pain it caused at the age of 35 is very different to the level of pain it's going to cause at age 75. Because this stuff stacks and grows, and it doesn't, it's compounded over time. So you have to focus on the habits around the way you're wired to not have that compound, to not keep filling the bucket with more problems, that your body eventually reaches a tipping point where the bucket is full and you get your first chronic disease. Right? So the first step is thinking the way that you even think, exactly what you said. I have to realize that I have extra years where I have to maintain and not get wear and tear, because we don't yet know how to repair damaged DNA. Right? We don't know how to take an unraveling cell and pack it back together again. We don't have that tech. So the more wear and tear you have, the worse off you're going to be later in life, because our body didn't know we're going to be here for that long, right? So I believe that if you look at the cell and you look at the way it's designed, it looks like we are designed to live up to 120. Right? The telomeres, the end caps that protect your DNA, the cellular structure, everything about it. If you look at the actual hardware, it looks like we're designed to live to 120. So that's the potential. And every bad choice you make chips away at that 120 and takes years back and reduces the quality of those last few decades. You should be able to live to 120 with good energy, good brain, dancing on a stage somewhere, right? Everything you do removes that potential. So it's very important to think about every choice you make, every habit. I think you said was it the glutathione pathway was off for you?
My glutathione pathway's off. I've got hormone issues and I've got insulin issues and not a good gut.
That's nice.
Oh, and I'm 67, so we got a lot to deal with.
I mean, first of all, I would have never guessed 67. So you're already doing a lot of things right.
Oh, thank you.
And here's the proof in the pudding. Like, you can make choices and decide at what pace you're going to age.
Yeah.
Right. So all of those things become your priorities. Insulin is the tricky one because it's very hard for a lot of people to manage what they eat. And that's a family effort because everybody in the household has to support that effort.
Well, I will tell you just a very quick, and I don't mean to overtake my time. I actually didn't think I have any questions, but I actually was in a situation where someone was very angry in a store standing a few feet from me. I happened to be wearing a CGM with a nutritionist I was working with, and it went sky high. I was on my way to the sauna, the big red light one where you get in, and I did not realize I wasn't even upset with that person. I used to be that person. I was grateful that I wasn't anymore getting triggered at a shoe repair store. But my insulin went sky high. So what I realized is my insulin has more issues, not with food, but with my emotional well-being.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that till I had that CGM on and just happened to take a measure.
So hormones are all interconnected, right? This is why, as an example, so you're experiencing a cortisol response, a stress response. People react to that differently. People that have a serotonin dysregulation may experience its insulin trigger to cause them to get hungry as a coping mechanism to feel good. Meaning you lean on soul food, right? So
Mhm.
you'll just make note of this, you, and by the way, our friend Bela up here, right? The next time you're having a bad day where somebody's annoying you and bothering you, do you lean on food as a coping mechanism? Because the hunger is actually experienced as real. You actually feel hungry. And one of the modalities of your body creating hunger is an insulin response, right? And so that's potentially why that happened. It's your body trying to keep you out of a cortisol response, which is inflammatory.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah. All right.
thank
All
you.
right. Can it be my turn now?
Yes, for sure.
Well, listen, I know I have, I mean, I'm old enough, so I'm not complaining, but I have, I'm estrogen dominant. I have a hypothyroidism. I have to watch my sugar, which I've been doing that for almost 20 years anyway. I've been very careful. But is the hormonal thing affects the thyroid in any way?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So our thyroids, so the biggest killer right now is cardiovascular disease, but there's a major argument around that cardiovascular disease being driven by thyroid imbalance. So I can tell you, at least in Canada, the number one prescribed medication used to be thyroid medication until, I don't know, 15 years ago-ish, when it became cardiovascular, statins for cholesterol. And I agree that there's this thyroid response that leads to a lot of other problems, including diabetes and cardiovascular. But because we only deal with a symptom, we're masking the cardiovascular disease and not even asking what caused it, which potentially is thyroid. So yes, it's driven by hormones. It's also driven by all the stressors of your environmental toxins and the food and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really, if you adopt clean habits, right? So we'll talk about the hormones in a second, but if you adopt clean habits that reduce the load on your system, it's that bucket we were talking about earlier. There's a certain
Right.
that your body can handle. Fill the bucket, I'll detoxify it. Fill the bucket, I'll fight the inflammation. Your body does these jobs, but there's a certain level where it's like, I can't keep up. The body can no longer keep up with the load you've put on. So you have to start thinking about, what are you breathing, right? What are you using in your lawn? What are you using in your house? What are you sleeping on for 7, 8, 9 hours that you're breathing in? What's going on your skin? Your skin will eat whatever cosmetics and whatever sunscreen you put on it, right? And your relationships, major trigger, adrenal roller coaster. Adrenal and thyroid function are highly tied together. So the stressors, you have to think about those, how you sleep, etc. So all of the same stuff we always talk about applies to all chronic diseases. Which disease you're going to get, it just depends on which part of your body is not doing well, right? It's these loads that are required to trigger it. So without any of these problems, you're not going to be sick. Now, when it comes to hormones, for some women who are more estrogen dominant and have estrogen toxicity, that's an internal source of inflammation, right? So it's a whole other problem that most men don't have to deal with. So not only are you fighting all of what's coming in from the outside, you're also fighting what you make. And on top of that, everything in your environment is an estrogen mimic, which is adding more estrogen and fueling that fire. Birth control pills, hormone therapy, the cleaning chemicals, even your cosmetics that have phthalates and other estrogen mimics in them, if you're not buying clean, organic, natural cosmetics, right? So yeah, all of these things that we talk about for everything else, my belief is that a lot more people have thyroid issues than we think, because when they're going to the clinician because of their pain point and whatever it is, they're only dealing with the pain point. But the pain point is often driven by poor thyroid function. And if you look at how doctors are measuring for poor thyroid function, there's a scale that looks like this, right? And if you're like here, right, it's still considered some good or bad number. And if you're here, it's still considered. How are these two the same thing? But
They're not.
They're within the parameters, so they're considered the same thing. Now, if you personalize that, and this person that has low estrogen levels but still managed to get here, that's extreme. This person that has low estrogen or high estrogen levels, but made it this far, that's another extreme. You have to again personalize, and this is why I feel that it's so often misdiagnosed, because it's not personalized. It's like, here's the guardrails. If you're in between there, you're good. Get out of my office. Go deal with your cardiovascular disease, right? And that's why it's misdiagnosed. So I don't know if that's on purpose, because it keeps a lot more people in the system. Because this is, if I know this, doctors know this. Like, I'm not a clinician, and it was very easy for me to learn this, right? So that's what I would say is, if you want to look at thyroid, go to a functional medicine doctor. By the way, we have this also. If you want to work with us on the clinic side, we have functional medicine doctors who think outside of these parameters. They can personalize the data and see how that's relevant to you, as opposed to, here's the FDA regulations, which don't really work, right? So
Right.
I would highly recommend anyone that's dealing with thyroid. It's very hard to get answers from an allopathic doctor because they don't have the tools. They're not equipped.
No, I know.
Right? Yeah, so you need a functional medicine practitioner. And whether you go find one, or you can email Jason, his email is in the chat. He can connect you with somebody on a program. That's really what you need. And the good news is it can be healed. It does take longer than other things, skin, migraines, poor sleep. These things can be fixed fairly quickly. Thyroid takes months to recover and heal, but it can be healed. It can recover. You just have to work on it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know, I have the MTHFR problem, and then I have, the insulin resistant part. I've been really very careful for the last 20 years, at least, just to be, I don't even use creams on myself because I'm afraid of all that extra stuff. However, I don't know what to do, because I have Justin as coaching. He's bringing things up. We've had a nice conversation. However, like I said, I don't know what else to think, because did you say that you're reevaluating the genes on each of us, or am I wrong? Did I get that wrong?
In terms of today?
Well, I have the results. You're not looking at them again, are you?
I'm not looking at them here, but I can, meaning if there's a specific.
No, I don't mean here. I didn't know if there were some other things that you were studying on it.
Oh, right, yeah. We're constantly doing that. So we're constantly looking at how to improve not only new genes, but even the existing genes we look at. They all mean multiple things. They don't just do singular. For example, COMT clears your brain chemicals. It also clears hormones. It also clears the tail end of methylation, right? It's part of methylation. So we're constantly learning what these things mean, but we're also adding new genes. We're also working on adding new testing. We know that we think in a unique way. So how to measure is also unique. So we're looking at blood work and gut microbiome testing and cancer screening and other things that we know that our community needs and wants and is leaning towards. So yeah, you'll see in short order new testing also being added.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I do have issues just like everybody else. However, to tell you the truth, I've always had plenty of energy. I don't know how, but I do. And I could go all day and I'm fine. And I don't always sleep good, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because my brain is working all the time. That's my problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's really, I don't know. Like I said, with the issues I have, I'm still able to do a whole lot. So
It sounds like, what you've done with your diet and your environmental exposures over time is putting you ahead of most. So most people, if you're on your standard American diet, you're not going to feel the way you feel. That's where the energy drain comes from. standard American chemical exposure. That's where the energy drain comes from. You know, I can tell you there's a study where at Baylor University, they took 25 lab animals on each side, so 2 groups, and 25 of those animals on one side were fed a standard American diet, and 25 were fed highly nutritious, nutrient-dense foods for some time. They were then exposed to UV rays equivalent to what you get from the sun. And of these animals that was fed the American diet, 25% developed skin cancer. Of the ones that ate the nutrition dense food, 0 got skin cancer. Right? So why am I saying this? Because the habits that you've had in terms of the food, just from listening to you for a few minutes, the habits you've had in terms of how you're careful about your food, you've understood your insulin response, the chemicals you're exposing yourself to, you are aging the way we're supposed to age. You're supposed to have energy. You're supposed to have a sharp brain. You're supposed to be dancing with your grandchildren. All of what we see is not what we're supposed to do when it comes to all these diseases and poor energy and etc. You are an example of what's possible if you don't add the negative, right? All the negative, which is why.
Well, you know, when you have a family, you have some negativity somewhere along the way. However, I am very involved in helping other people, so I don't have time to sit around and worried about stuff. So that's enough said of that. But I was concerned about that. I'm going to get some optimizer for my thyroid and see what happens until I can afford to get a doctor there, because I'm spending all the money I extra have. I'm spending it on things like this, like what I need to do to cure myself. So I'll do the best I can.
So if you're already working with Justin, what I might recommend is ask him if you can get a call with our functional medicine doc. I'm not sure about fees or costs or any of that stuff, how it works, but rather you're already in the programs, you already have a coach that's supporting you that understands your genetics. All we need is a functional medicine doc to, for one time, dive into your thyroid and figure it out. So that's what I might recommend, because you're already working with Justin and he can then implement whatever was learned.
Okay, well, I'll find out what, if I can.
Yeah, Graziella, we can follow up with you after the call. We can send you an email and we can talk with Kashif and see what the appropriate way to kind of get you some more assistance would be.
Right. I appreciate that. Like I said, I have to do it a little step at a time sometime, though. That's the only thing.
For sure.
Anyway, but I surely appreciate you, Kashif, and I'll tell you what, it's confusing as some of these things are. It's still, I don't know. I'm fascinated anyway, and I can't wait to go to see my sisters in Italy and show them all my wonderful results from the, because my sister, she says, well, what can I tell you? And I said, a lot of things. So anyway, thank you, Kashif.
Pleasure. I see Michael Sandifer. Do you have a question?
Good afternoon. Yes, indeed.
How
I'm doing great.
Very good.
I don't have the video working, so I apologize for that. I'll have to remedy the situation afterwards. I have been following Dave Asprey since 2014. So I'm not quite on the number of supplements that he's taken, but I'm on a pretty high dose too. And I have been trying to work through a couple of key issues. Diabetes, which I am not on the standard diet. I changed my diet and I've gotten it pretty much under control, but I take too many meds. And I would love to pursue healing instead of being subject to the meds. And I see insulin resistance. As I went through your program, and I've gone through all of the printouts, and I've identified the 20 yellows and reds, and I've got 8 reds. And I'm figuring that I want to focus on my 8 red issues to begin with.
Right.
So I know I've got insulin resistance as a part of my problem. I've got a real serious problem with vitamin D, but I take so much vitamin D in the morning and night that I'm, maybe I need a different form. I can't, but I've done it for years. The other area where I've got a couple of reds, and it's really, it's the gluthanization and methylation and antioxidants.
Yep.
So I probably have a detox issue to contend with, is kind of my summary view. Let me just get the couple of points out. If it's a detox way forward. And as I looked at diet nutrition, I got a tough time on vitamin A and a terrible time on vitamin D. I got reds all over the place there, but I've been taking those vitamins for years and years. The final issue that I've got, so I've got this collection and I'm just trying to figure out, can you tackle them all at once? But the other issue is hormones. And I am codominant. And in hormones, boy, Adrios X, red. CYP 19A1, red. So the way I treat testosterone, conversion to estrogen, I'm really probably strong in estrogen. I don't have a clue because I haven't run a Dutch test. And I'm just trying to figure out, can I jump in and start doing hormonal things, or should I take my Dutch test first, see the results, and then go from there?
Okay.
So kind of put them out in front of you. I'm just trying to figure out, having looked at your whole program and grouped them together, what's the best way forward?
So how old are you now?
73.
Okay. When I look at, I actually opened up your data here because I have your name here. And yes, you are highly, it says you're co-dominant, but you're leaning far more towards estrogen.
Yeah. Which is weird for a man.
Yeah, well, we see this a lot. It's actually, there's a lot of benefits. So, a man that, for example, wants to get big and strong, that's actually estrogen that drives that, not testosterone. Testosterone drives lean muscle mass, but not size. So if you want to go, be a football player, you need estrogen, for example. There is some, hold on, let me see if I read this properly. Yeah, there's some estrogen toxicity, which is an internal source of toxin. Do you do any kind of exercise or training?
Yeah. Well,
What do you
I've got to walk the dog, I've got a significant amount of walking, and I've got a exercise lab in the house. I've got a clinic in the house. Hydrobaric chamber, full body scan, or full body red sauna, ozone generator.
Okay. When I look at your overall, and I consider all the problems, okay, there's a insulin problem, a blood sugar problem. There's this estrogen dominance problem. There's this andro receptor problem that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The solution that kind of solves all these at the same time is heavy resistance training, weight training. And why do I say that? Because you have really efficient androgen receptor. You make a lot of testosterone. You convert it into estrogen. If you utilize all the testosterone, then there's nothing there to convert to estrogen. And so what I would do is, in the morning, between 6 to 8 when you wake up, that's when your testosterone peaks. I would hit weights, heavy weights, as heavy as you can go, without obviously hurting yourself. You build up over time, but the intention is to be able to lift heavy. Even if you start with rubber bands, it doesn't matter. You're pushing more than what you're used to, and you keep going. And that becomes a regular daily, because every day that you wake up, you've just made new hormones. Remember, women have a monthly cycle, men have a daily cycle. We make our hormones every day. So, and every day you're going to have this testosterone peak in the morning, and you have these really efficient androgen receptors. So you have this kind of use it or lose it type profile. If you use it and push your body physically with heavy weights, not with running or any like cardiovascular training, then your body becomes more androgenized. And the big movements like squats, bench press, deadlifts, like the big heavy stuff that really drives androgenization, testosterone utilization. The second thing is stretching. So stretching your biggest muscle groups, your legs, your glutes, your back, activates the androgen receptor. Because it's kind of like your brain, your body's being prepped for physical work. So stretching is usually a sign and a cue that you're about to do something physical. So it activates the androgen receptor, and then you start to use more testosterone. So these two things, start with stretching, go straight into heavy resistance training. You got to do that 5 days a week, likely. And then all of a sudden your hormone flow is going to really change. Because your problem isn't about adding hormones, it's more about changing the profile of what you have. Now, the other thing that can be done is an aromatase inhibitor, adding a supplement to slow down the conversion into estrogen. We make a product called Male E, which is designed for estrogen dominant males. There's other things you can buy that are designed for aromatase inhibiting is what it's called. But we make a product called Male E. If you take that, you'll almost instantly feel a difference. Again, for men, this happens a lot quicker because the hormone cycle is daily. So within a couple of days, you'll probably feel a little less anxious. You'll start to burn a little bit more fat. You might have a little bit more energy, right? Those changes will happen fairly quick. Like again, for a woman, it takes longer, but for a man, you'll feel it within days. So those are the two big things I would say there. The other reason why this resistance training is sort of a central answer to all your problems is your body uses muscle. So as you age, the more muscle you have, the less resistance you're going to have to insulin, and the better you'll metabolize glucose. Right? Your body muscle is implicit in the glucose metabolic pathway. So the less muscle you have, the less efficiently you can metabolize glucose, and less efficient your insulin response becomes. So you can have what we call metabolic flexibility, meaning that once you get to the point where you have the right amount of muscle, then the same rice and pasta that used to bother you doesn't bother you anymore. Right? So you can build up your body, and this is exceedingly important as you age. It becomes even more important. There's a constant atrophy. You're fighting against aging. So the more you resistance train, you're going to slow that aging down. You're going to have more muscle to deal with glucose. Your hormones are going to change. So it's that one central pivot that changes a lot of things around it. And after 2 weeks of doing it, you become addicted. So it's hard to start, but it's also hard to quit. So it's hard to get going. Once you do it diligently for a couple of weeks and it becomes part of your like routine, and your body and brain gets used to it, it's very hard to stop after that, right? So that's the one. So there's two things: the estrogen aromatase inhibitor supplement, this muscle training and stretching, mitochondrial support. We heard Mary talk about MitoPure.
I take MitoPure. I take everything Dave's recommended.
Okay. So also
All
keep in
sorts of-
mind, sorry.
All sorts of mitochondria support.
Okay, so keep in mind, as per Janet's question, you have to, the terrain has to be ready for all of what you're taking. At 73, it's not, your body's not going to treat that heavy dose of supplements the same way it's treating Dave. So his result is not going to be your result. Your metabolic processes are a lot slower. And so you need to hit the gym and train and get that rate resistance training to change your body, speed things up, slow down hormones, build muscle to metabolize glucose. And then you're going to find that those supplements do a lot more for you than they're doing right now.
Taking a testosterone shot each week, what impact does that have?
So you convert testosterone into estrogen.
So
right?
that's building more estrogen in me.
Yes. Yeah, so for you, it's counterintuitive, but more testosterone for you doesn't mean more testosterone. It means more
Well, I
estrogen.
raised my testosterone scores because I got on that program 4 years ago and my testosterone had fallen down and now it's up high again.
Yeah.
But
What I would suggest is if you're going to continue on the testosterone, then the aromatase inhibitor I talked about is no longer a maybe, it's a must. You have to do it. And you would also add some detox because you're converting a little bit of your testosterone into what we call DHT, which is it's a more potent, but it's also a more toxic version. Right. So
the yellow associated medium testosterone to DHT.
Yes. So you're converting some of it into DHT and your clearance pathways aren't the best. So the little that you make is staying around for a little too long. And DHT is it's a great, powerful byproduct, but it's also toxic in nature, especially if you're not using it. So the weight training will also help with that, right? You'll be utilizing this DHT, but you want to slow that, well, not slow it down, but eliminate it through detox. So we make a product called Detox Optimizer. You can also get some NAC, glycine, those things work
I
really
take
well.
that already, NAC.
You take NAC?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So do you know how much you're taking? You should, I think you're gonna need like 600-ish milligrams. Okay.
I'm sorry, it's a long list.
All right.
300 milligram.
300. So take that twice a day. Take one. What time do you take it?
I take it in the morning.
So take one right before going to sleep also. So keep in mind that the majority of your glutathionization happens in your sleep. Your detox processes happen in your sleep. So if you add the NAC, so it's good to have it during the day because it helps you deal with the daily load, but you're also needing to clear these toxic hormone metabolites. So take an additional, so 600 total, 300 and 300, take another one right before you go to sleep. And that will help you with all this hormone toxicity, which is another source of inflammation. That will also insulin response because all these things are cumulative, right? So you bring one thing down, this thing has a breath of fresh air all of a sudden and can do a better job also, right?
Okay, so resistance training, male E, detox optimizer, and doubling my NAC morning and night.
Yeah, you don't need the detox optimizer if you're going to take the 600 NAC.
Oh,
And and just when it comes to training, add the stretching. So before the workout, you're stretching the big muscles, legs, back, chest, the big muscles, right?
yep.
That will activate the androgen receptors, and you're doing some heavy weight training to utilize that testosterone before it converts to estrogen. It's going to change your body over time.
Okay. Well,
Oh, I just
People-
want to, a heads up, we're coming to a close soon, so I don't mean to interrupt, Michael, but I just want to make sure that we have one more person, Janice, who hasn't gotten an opportunity yet. So I wanted to make sure that Cash also got to her as well.
thanks.
Great. Good. Okay. All right. Let's go to Janice.
Is it Janice I or Janice L? Did you have any questions?
Or just so you know, you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to say something right now. No? Okay. No questions. All right. So with that, we got a few minutes left. I would say that the overall theme you'll keep hearing over and over again, these same problems lead to everything, right? So it's environmental inputs. But what is today's context? That's the thing you should take away from this, is that you don't have a genetic problem. You have a suboptimal biological function in a context which is not what we're designed for, even with the best genetics, right? So it just means you need to prioritize that bad genetic job. But the reality is today is a toxic soup between the EMF from your phone and your laptop, between the chemicals that you breathe and eat, between the food, which is so toxic. You know, a lot of foreign governments do not allow the import of American bread because it's so toxic. You know, a lot of our mass-produced packaged products are considered illegal in the EU and in China. The stuff that we get made in China that we import to feed ourselves is illegal to be sold in China to the Chinese citizens. Right? So just understand, this is not food. It is recreation. It's not nutrition. It's convenience, it's flavor, it's price, it's not food. So you have to get rid of it because that's your primary source of life. Why do you eat? Right? It's so all of these inputs be highly digital. Now that you've seen and you kind of understand the inner workings of your body, like here's all these jobs my body is doing. I didn't even know that my body was doing them until I saw this weird DNA report that says I do this job well and this one not so well. Well, now you know what's actually going on the inside and why disease happens and why aging happens at different rates and why energy levels are different and why libido is different and why sleep is different. These are all caused. But these are not innate. These are not problems you're born with. And so understand that the choices you make will change the outcome, right? You can decide how you're going to feel. You can decide how, what degree you're going to age. You can even decide to reverse some of the aging you've experienced, right? You might say that, okay, well, I'm gonna fix the acute problem. Let's fix the thyroid, for example, for Graziella. And you know what? I don't have the problem anymore. So I'm going to optimize it. I'm going to start sleeping better and I'm going to start having better relationships. Wait a second, I'm past that now. I'm going to start to reverse the damage that was done. And this is where you can get to. This is truly where you can get to, where you can reverse your biological age on the inside. Chronological, I don't have a time machine to offer you, so can't change that. But biological, you can do it. So, and now you've been armed with what to prioritize, right? Which is key. So just keep that in mind in everything you do. Every time you talk to someone, every time you eat something, every time you decide to go somewhere and breathe something, what is that choice leading to? And what could that choice have been? Right? And how does it stack up over 10, 15, 40, 60 years of making the wrong or right choices? What does that equal? Right? And truly change the outcome. So anyways, those are some final thoughts for you, because you'll see that any question that somebody asks, the theme is kind of the same. Maybe it's a different problem we're solving, but it's always like, what are the inputs? What are you taking in? And what are the things you need to add to resolve poor biological function? So it's either turning the dial of get rid of this stuff because it's bad, or it's add this stuff because you need it to do this job better. And turning those two dials gets you to like, here's the best I can possibly be. I'm going to live to 120 and I'm going to ride my bicycle. Right? That's what potential is. That's human potential. There's people today that are doing that. Literally, there's people doing that now. So you can too. So there you go, guys. If there's no other questions.
Could I ask one quick question, if you don't
Sure, yeah.
mind? Just an afterthought. Low iron, what does that circle back to? Which of these issues would be the cause of that problem?
Yeah, so we don't look at the genetics of iron particularly. That I know several people have sort of called that out. It's a common problem. Low everything is more like it. Like if you look at any mineral or metal, we're low on it all. Low on copper, low on, so
Okay.
I mean, I would suggest that, and that's one of the earlier things we said when we were talking about over supplementing, right? There's this baseline of here's the minerals I need, right? And we have to have those because our food doesn't give them to us anymore. And if you want clean water to remove the forever chemicals and toxins, well, now it's also depleted of minerals because you've just put it through reverse osmosis and all you're getting is H2O. So you need to be adding minerals, and you have low iron because you live in 2023 and the food is causing that, right? So yes, there's anemia. There's an innate condition that people have. It just means that they'll get there faster, but we're all kind of there. The food doesn't give it to us, right? So you need to be, that's an area where, again, those two dials to turn. What do I remove? What do I add? You need to add minerals. You need to add, there's a product called Floradix. It's DIX, Floradix. It's a European, I think it's a Swiss product. It's a fruit extract and compound. It tastes really good. It tastes like a syrup. You take it once a day and your iron levels will resolve themselves. Yeah, it's amazing for managing iron. But again, that's a symptom mask. But in this case, you have to do that because the food doesn't have it, right? We used to have copper pipes, so we were getting a little trickle of copper. We used to have copper plates. Now it's all plastic. So what we used to do doesn't exist, and so we all know the story. We've been talking about it for a while. Yeah. So if you do have an iron issue, try that Floradix. It's I believe it's from Switzerland. It works really well. Within a short time, your iron levels will adjust to a healthy level.
Okay. And again, fatigue is not even necessarily the iron. It might be something completely different.
For sure, it might be completely different. So first of all, iron helps with that.
Right.
But it's just a signal that you're not getting nutrient dense food, right? And it's hard to get nutrient dense food. So another thing you can do as sort of a therapeutic response, I haven't seen your genetics, so I don't know how you metabolize fat or your insulin response, but if you go on a strict carnivore diet for 6-7 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, you might see that your energy level spike and autoimmune type symptomology goes away. And there's two things that are happening there. One is you've eliminated everything processed. So beef, liver, kidney, good high quality eggs, not your industrial eggs, are one of the few foods left that haven't been adulterated, that haven't been broken. They're still in their natural form and healthy and clean. Grass-fed, pasture beef, pasture eggs, like proper food, right? And liver, kidney, and organs are some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet if it came from the right animal. So we've seen many, many people resolve their autoimmunity by following a highly strict carnivore diet for, again, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, somewhere in that time frame. And if that's the case, then it was not an innate problem. I don't have a disease. I had a nutrition problem, which is most likely the case, right? Even I'm going to go eat some salad and plants because it's healthy. Yeah, they're grown in a greenhouse and they have no nutrition, right? That's the challenge. So if you're willing to try that, it's aggressive because it's literally, you cannot cheat. It has to be 100% carnivore, steak, eggs, kidney, liver, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, and a little bit of salt. That's all you're using, a high quality, proper mineral salt. And I would also add some fiber in the first week or two, because there's going to be a bit of a shock to the system and your gut. If you don't have fiber, your body may not be, yeah, Michael just dropped in here, Pluck, by the way. This is an awesome company. And it looks like we have a discount for you if you want to use that link. They've taken organ meats and turned it into seasoning. So it's a way of adding the nutrient dense value of these organ meats to your foods. It's especially good for like kids that won't eat liver, but you don't get to taste liver from the seasoning. So I would take like your meats and then use Pluck, or slowly chip away and slowly change your diet and add this, right? So it's another good way to do it. So yes, those are my thoughts there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh,
Can I ask one more question?
sure, yeah.
I've always been interested in sauna, but there's a heat intolerance because of multiple sclerosis. Is it really contraindicated to use sauna in heat if there is a genuine heat intolerance? Or it seems like it would increase neuroplasticity, but
What happens when with the intolerance? What do you feel?
I get really weak.
Really weak.
Really,
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer that because that's a clinical
okay.
issue, but like, is it like you're light in the head or like literally drain no energy?
Drained all energy.
Yeah, drain. Okay. So there's genes around thermal regulation. 1 second. I'm gonna take a look here.
Okay.
Yeah, have you done the test
Yes, yes.
under your name, Janet Green?
It might be Janet McLaughlin,
Okay.
McLoughlin.
And you don't mind if I look it up?
Oh,
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I see McLaughlin. There's some genes that we test that we don't report on because they're clinical in nature. And yeah, so your thermal regulation is off. So the UCP1 gene determines how efficiently your body regulates its temperature based on changes. So it's not that you can't tolerate heat, it's that you don't regulate fast enough. So you need a gradual increase, right? You need to like walking into a sauna, your body doesn't know how to make that adjustment. So you got to slowly turn up the dial. Right. And you can, it's kind of like, what do they call when you put the frog in the bucket and it, it doesn't know it's being cooked? You got to do that to yourself. Or is it a frog or a lobster? I don't remember which one it is. Yeah. So that's what you got to do is your body doesn't thermoregulate properly. So do you often feel cold when other people are saying it's not cold?
only at night.
Yeah. So that your body again can't, so that the temperature change that happens from day to night, it takes you longer to adjust. And the people around you might say, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a big deal, right? So your body doesn't thermoregulate properly. So you need to slowly turn the dial on temperature, but you can get to that temperature if you want to. You just have to take it slowly.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys. So, I don't see any more thoughts. Oh, I see Natalie. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, Natalie's already gone. All right. Any other thoughts? I guess we have 2 minutes left. If not, I wish you a good evening.
Same to you.
Oh, thank you.
I could ask one more question.
Sure, go for it.
If is it important to take like a general micronutrient and general mineral, or is testing for specifics required?
So you need them all, and we know we're not getting them from our food.
Right.
So I would highly recommend you click on this link with the discount for the beam minerals.
Uh-huh.
It's one of the best products out there in terms of formulation and delivery to the actual cell. A lot of stuff, just like we said about the supplements, you take it in, you pee it out, because that's not the natural way your body's meant to take it in. So it doesn't, it literally doesn't take it. Beam is formulated in a way where a fulvic mineral delivers it to the cell. It's really cool, their technology. So I would highly recommend that. This is something that kind of everybody has, just like everyone needs vitamin D, everyone needs minerals. Your food is not giving it to you, right? So yeah, so that's the sort of short answer is I would, and it's not something you need to build up. You just start taking it. Your body's craving it and will use it right away.
Gosh, thank you. This was fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashif, very much.
No problem, guys.
Thank
All
you
right.
everyone for coming. Keep your eyes out for the replay video. And we're also going to link any of the companies Cash has mentioned, any of the products. And if we do have a discount code available for you, that'll be included in the email as well. So you can do a little bit more research on those products.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, guys.
Have a
Good
good
night.
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 Your genetics are a phenomenal thing. A 40-year-old person who looks and feels like they're 28 isn't because they left things to chance. They're doing things differently. Chronic disease, aging, poor performance. These are all the result of wrong choices. But how do you know what the right choices are for you? And what would be the impact if you always made the right choice? What if you can change the day you die? When you see those first wrinkles, those gray hairs, or a call from the doctor and they say, I need to see you, your test results are in. We've taken it for granted that this is meant to happen, that aging and disease are just a part of life. Well, what if they're not? You can't feel cancer coming. There's no warning that dementia is on the way, and so we think these things just happen. We get sick, we try to treat it, but it's too late. Well, now, there's a better way. A way that puts us each in charge of our own destiny. Genetic research has advanced more in the last 3 years than the last 30. And this personal instruction manual that's in each one of us has finally been properly decoded. We can now get ahead of disease or even reverse it, allowing us to decide how we age. Our scientists have clinically studied over 5,000 people. We've sat in front of each and every one of them. We looked at their hair, their skin, their mood and behavior, their medical history, everything about them, all overlaid on their DNA map. We then understood where the biochemistry of your trillions of cells and the instructions of your 22,000 genes intersect. And with that, what choices each one of us needs to make to slow down aging and catch disease before it happens. I have no doubt that with the genetic insights we're seeing today, chronic disease will soon be a story that we tell our grandchildren. If you understand why chronic disease and aging really happen, you also understand that they are truly optional.